God is good. So, my message today is a report from the Philippines and my activities there, mainly revolving around evangelistic meetings there. So this is the venue where our meetings were held. They were not held in that yellow and brick building behind there. If you look to the far right, you can see just an entrance to a roofed area, and that is where the meetings were held. This is every barangay in the Philippines. I say that, I mean, I've only been on 2 islands there, but it seems to me that every barangay in the Philippines has their own civic center, where they have some offices, and then they have this different variations of a building, such as our meeting was in, a roof, and I spoke where there was actually bleachers. Usually it's not totally enclosed. Anyway, that's where we're at here. We'll see a little bit more about that later. I should mention to you that often, almost every day actually, the heat index was around 106, 107 degrees when I was there. So the temperature is around 97, 98 degrees. And I was concerned what kind of effect that would have on our attendance. I mean, they closed schools. Many days they had to close schools. It was just too hot. And of course, there's no way for me to know how many people didn't come because of the heat, but I know the people came night after night in spite of the heat. So this is my room. And you can see I just decided about every 2 days I was going to do laundry. It's just easier that way, which was in a bucket in the shower, and that's my clothesline. So the room was right across from the hospital. The room was a guest room. I think there's 4 or 5 of them connected to the conference office there. Where I was, the Negros Occidental Conference. So, across the street then from the conference is the Seventh-day Adventist Hospital. I couldn't get the entire hospital in. There's quite a bit more to your left, to the left of the screen. And then on the right, so there's that main door there you can see, just to the left of that pickup truck. And then turn right there is a cafeteria. Where I took my meals, pretty much most of my meals, actually, except for every evening after the meeting, I would get, they would give me fruit of some kind. And then maybe about the 3rd day in, they found out that I love mangoes from the Philippines. And then more often than not, then I got mangoes to eat the next day. So, now there's a building just to the right of the hospital we were just looking at, and I just put this here. You can see it's a newer building. And the first time I went to the Philippines 10 years ago, I believe they're already starting on this building. Maybe it was a building next door, but I think it was this building. So, a gentleman, not a member of our church, had stayed in the hospital and had gotten better, and he put up the money for the building of this building. Yeah, which is a lot of money, even by Filipino standards. So, and they told me that when the building was finished, the guy died shortly after. So he had his heart in this building. I guess he was keeping an eye on everything, but it's a blessing, for the hospital there. So my first Sabbath there, I went to a church in the San Miguel, and I had somehow the youth group for this church had been constantly popping up on my Facebook, and I noticed that, man, they are very, very active. I mean, they're always doing something, outreach of various kinds, and I started, and kind of look forward to seeing what they were doing. And kind of wanted to do something for this youth group. What really caught my attention was I was looking one time and they had, it was nominating time. They had president and they had treasurer and they had, a couple of them for promotion and just 10 or 12 different positions. But that wasn't for the church. That was just for the youth group. And I preached there. The first Sabbath I was there. You can see on the left, there's people sitting outside the church, which is fairly common there. But anyway, and this is taken from the back. I actually have a very short clip here. Let's see if it works. I'm going to use this mic. Let's see here. I don't know. Can you hear that? Okay, back there. I mean, this was very lot of life in that church. I noticed that. So we got there. Sabbath school had begun, and there was a gentleman up there who taught Sabbath school. But then, for another, I don't know, at least 20 minutes, the youth came up front. I'm saying like late high school, and maybe some just a team bit beyond high school, and each one took a turn teaching the lesson for that day. They didn't actually teach; they preached about the point from that day, which I thought was great. And so afterward, of course, we had a meal, and I had delicious mangoes at that meal. I don't know if I mentioned mangoes or not, but anyway. And then I wanted to make sure the president and the treasurer and so on of the youth group stayed by afterward, and so we had a gathering afterward, maybe about 10 of the young people. And this, I just pulled this off the internet, but I didn't realize, because we gathered in this, underneath this frame here, basically. So the youth group virtually outgrew any space in the church. And so they started to put this building up. This was April 6th. So I got there, 1st of May, basically. I mean, this picture was taken then, actually just days, hardly any days before I preached there, maybe a couple of days before. Actually, now I think about it. By the way, it's 12-hour time difference. So, if your name is Mary and I call you George or something, it's jet lag, okay. Anyway, so I let them know that I would like to do something for their group, and they said, what we'd really like is to have this room finished, this building finished. And anyway, we talked about the roof, and I asked them for a quote, which I think I got one, that was Sabbath, obviously. So Sunday or Monday, I got the quote, and we were able to help them. And this was only a couple of weeks ago. Just earlier this week, the former leader of this youth group, who I know very well, from a past evangelistic meeting that I had near this church, in which she helped. But she showed me, they've already got materials. And then, so 12 hours ago, or whatever, when she showed up for church, she was able to tell me that the roof is finished. And I said, how about a picture? So she sent me that picture right there. And you can see there are the youth having their meeting or whatever with the roof over their head. And believe me, you really want a roof over your head there because the sun is hot at this time of year. So that was a blessing, definitely a blessing to see. So about the meetings then, I'm going to first talk about some of the people involved in the meetings and then talk about sort of the meetings and the results of the meetings like that. So pretty much every meeting that I've been involved in the Philippines, there's always what they call a medical mission. So this is where, sometimes it's at the very facility, oftentimes it's the very facility where the evangelistic meetings are held. Right before, I've had them hold it right in the middle, and then in this case, they held it at the end. So the meeting was over, you're kind of scratching your head, well, wouldn't have been better for the meetings, but I mean, they have so many people that come to these, it's actually your attendance, your ability to take advantage of the opportunities at this medical mission were based on your attendance at the meetings. And so, because I remember the first meetings I had there, I had a number of young men attending. They'd be sitting up in front and so on like that. And then they had the medical mission in the middle of the meeting time, I mean, day-wise. Those young men never came back to the meeting. And so when I came Sunday morning, just before I headed for the airport to this, I found these guys here. I knew what they were waiting for. You know what they're waiting for? Huh? Probably wouldn't. They're waiting for their free circumcision. That's what they're waiting for. Yeah. Local anesthesia. And that's why the young men didn't come back to the meetings I had 10 years ago, because they really couldn't walk too well. So, there you go. So here's a meeting. I put this up here because, Pastor Owen, he was not really my interpreter, but the first couple of nights he was, because my regular interpreter, who was interpreted for every meeting I've had in the Philippines, which is my sixth one, he's the stewardship director for the conference. He's also the religious liberty leader, and those are the two things I know for sure. He's a pastor and a lawyer. And he had this stewardship seminar, or summit really. People came from all over the Union. The meeting started on a Sunday night. Well, that weekend is when this seminar was. So he, number one, was at his seminar, and number two, was worn out. So Pastor Owen interpreted the first couple of nights, and he was a guy that he was there, one of the first ones there every night, helping to set up the sound and so on like that. Great guy. This young lady here, as I preached, I noticed her, she's about halfway back, but I could just see she was earnestly, diligently taking notes. Like if somebody would, she'd go, try, every time I changed the slide, she'd be writing things down. I could see she was quite earnest about it. And so after the meeting, I caught her and said, I see you're really taking notes. And so I told her, from now on, I'll have all the slides printed out for you. And that's what I did. Every night, I'd find her, which wasn't that easy, so she didn't have to so vigorously take notes. And I was so thrilled to see that she was baptized. So these girls here, especially the three on the right, the three on the right for sure, they did so much to help these meetings. Now, the two on the right standing are seniors in high school, and they ran the Vacation Bible School. They had lots to do with the music, leading the theme song every night, which was, I think, sung, for the kind of before the VBS Health Talk section, and then again before, my section. Just did so much. They were there early, just full of, enthusiasm and joy. The one on the far left, she was the same way, but mainly on weekends because she had to work during the week. So the one sitting, and basically everybody except for the girl standing in the middle, those three are sisters, and the one sitting is the oldest. She happens to have a bachelor's degree from CPAC, the Seventh Adventist College, there on that island. And then the next youngest, standing on the left, she happens to have a college degree in English And then the one on the right, that's the third sister. She is a senior in high school, ready to graduate, in a month or so here. And man, these are just dedicated, super positive, wonderful family. And let's see here. So now I have those still in the picture. Now I've added two more in this picture, up, singing, probably special music. So the two on the right, the one that's second from the right, she's the third senior in high school. That was very, very, very involved. There every night, Vacation Bible School, etc. And there's a number of things. Basically, every night after the meeting, people would register to come in, and then they would read names by family, and every night they would give them a bag of rice, a small bag of rice, which, believe me, was of value to these people. Anyway, again, these are, you can see that, so the one on the far left, she's, I guess it's okay, she's 31, but as you can see, the rest of them, the three of them are still in high school. Not sure about the one on the far right, but clearly quite young. And they ran. There was a guy that organized things at the very top, but these girls were just. They were involved in everything, registration, and always happy. It was thrilling. So, and then there's these two guys also. They were there every night. Every night, chairs had to be, at the beginning, chairs had to be set up. At the end, chairs had to be taken down, plus the music equipment, plus the registration tables. And these guys were great. A lot of fun. Definitely. They're just maybe a year or two out of high school. So, the family of three sisters, I did meet their parents on my second Sabbath. I spoke in their church. So there was like 5 churches involved in these meetings. But that one, as I have already indicated, they're the ones that really were running the meeting. Maybe they were the closest to where the meetings were held. But I was quite interested in visiting this family, and I did inquire about it. So I met their parents on Sabbath. I mentioned the two girls who are already old enough, already have college degrees. By the way, the one who was sitting at the keyboard, the music major, took her 8 years to go through college. So a term that I heard the very first time I was in the Philippines was working student. I thought, okay, so you have a part-time job, after classes or whatever. That's not what that means at all. What it means is they're in school and they have to take a year or 2 years to get enough money for the next year of school. And so that girl took her 8 years to get her degree. School 4 years, working 4 years. Anyway, so I really wanted to visit their home, and I asked the oldest girl about it. Really, I was very impressed. What is going on here? The parents don't even, they dropped out at 8th grade, and now the first 2 girls have graduated from college, and they're totally into the church, and the Lord. So I inquired about it. I'd love to come and pray with your whole family. And, well, Pastor, our home, what she said was, we live in a squatters area. That's what she told me. I'm like, well, in my mind, I'm thinking, I've been in squatters' homes before. Believe me. But, then there was, I told you, Joy, the other girl who was standing in the middle in that first picture I showed you. I was talking to her. I asked her if her parents were at church on Sabbath, and she said, no, me and my sister were the only Adventists in the family. Remember, she's a senior in high school. And then I inquired a little bit more and found out that her dad had died when she was, 1 year old. And I, inquired about, and, I'd love to come and meet your mother and have prayer. And she was very happy for me to come. And so then the door was open because these 3 seniors, they live in the same, as they call it, compound. kind of a fenced-in area, like a block fenced-in area for whatever reason. And so then that opened the door for me to visit the home that had the three sisters who were so active in the meetings, and that's what this picture is. And I must say, everything was clean and neat, for sure, but so there were 7 people living in this home. There's a younger sister here in the picture, just to the left, one in from the right, I should say, and then the mother in the middle, and then the senior in high school on the left. So the one girl who worked outside the home, who was only there on weekends, for the meetings, she's not there. She'd be working. This is during the day. And then there's another sister, this young sister here, and a little brother. And I think there's an older sister. I'm not sure. But anyway, there appears to be like 7 people living in this home, which is about the size of our room on the left back there, whatever we call that, multi-purpose room, boardroom, or whatever. That's how big this house was. 7 people living in it. Of course, no running water. And I was, I remember, we didn't stay long. The pastor was with me and my colleague, Serge, who was my first elder at the Wyoming church for, 10 or 12 years, but he eventually retired and moved out west where his grandkids are, but he's a Filipino, and he was there with me. But so I knelt down and had prayer there, and I tell you, I just felt the presence of Jesus there. The presence of Jesus was in that home. Really spoke to my heart. It was a life-changing moment, honestly. This is a picture of the home. This upper thing here, Dad put it up in the air there so that the senior in high school, that's her bedroom up there, just to make a little more room in that house. And you can see from that picture the tin roof and tin walls, and they would have had probably a hot plate and probably a rice cooker there. Although I can't say for sure. But anyway, showed up every night, happy as can be, looking very appropriate, looking great, just serving Jesus. Well, then, actually, I went to Joy's house first, and then to that house. But so Joy, I told you, her dad died when she was 1 year old. And so it was basically her and her mother and her brother, and I'm not sure, I think one sister. Her brother's the only one who worked, because I asked Joy, well, how do you, when she told me her dad died, how do you pay the bills? How do you eat or whatever? And because I know, I found out later, her mom has been sick, and so her brother, works and provides whatever for that family. So we're standing in their living room / kitchen / bedroom. Mom just in front of she and I to the right. That's where her mom's bed was. Or I call it bed. It's not a bed like we would call, but so it's very small, very humble, and this young lady, always smiling, always happy, at least to all appearances, and there every night, join, loving, serving the Lord Jesus there at those meetings. And just very, very impressive young lady. So then the third senior, Mavis, as you can see, this is a little bit higher standard of home. There's actually a window, which would have cost money, but there's a window you can see out, and there's what we might call a finished floor. You can see that a little bit. This is her and her mom. Her dad goes away every week to whatever job he has. So again, Mavis, happy and serving Jesus there at the meetings every night. So they had this wonderful youth group at this church, Das Hermanos, and that's the name of the church there. And so I did inquire of the kind of the youth leader there, what's going on, and so they're quite musical there, and they're trying to spread that out, get as many young people involved as possible. She said, what we really need is money for instruments. So we were able to provide enough money for 4 pretty nice violins there, which they were so thrilled about that. I didn't take this picture. I wasn't even there. I got this off the internet like yesterday or something, but very, very fulfilling. So we're talking about people, and I'm going to switch away from the meetings. So this is down on the river, a river that goes through town, not maybe 10-minute, 15-minute walk from where I stayed. And I've seen this river, 6, 8 feet deep. Right now it's extremely dry there. And so this river, this wall didn't used to be there, and probably for a good 300 yards along the side of the river that you're looking at, this picture I took from the other side of the river, there was bamboo houses, basically one room, maybe some extension, bamboo houses all along there. These are all squatter families. First time I went to the Philippines, there was about 10 of us, and we were out just for a walk, and we decided to walk along this river. That really was a walk into a totally different world for us, those kids started coming to where we were staying, and of course, we fed them, and then, they were there every day after that. But what happened was, and it's a whole, I could spend a whole, 30 minutes talking about those families and so on. But I don't know when exactly. Sometime, I don't know, it was right before COVID or during COVID. I don't know, but a flood came through and just wiped out all those bamboo huts there. It's not the first time, that's happened, but maybe it was worse than normal. And the government, for whatever reason, and I believe this property belongs to the business, the building you see behind there. It was a very long piece. So I believe a lot of that property is private property. Might be some of it is government property. I don't know, but government decided that they can't stay there anymore, and they built this wall, kind of a flood wall. And I had gone down to the river at this time because I knew one of the families who had actually always lived on the other side of the river, way down, quite a ways down. And this family here, I guess I knew they were living there, I guess. Yes, their daughter had told me. And so I had taken rice, and I had to kind of walk on top of this wall. There's another wall on my side of the river. Got down there and delivered rice, and then on the way back, so when I got up to the bridge, up to the road, I saw the father of this family, and so what these men did, and what he still does there is, and I've seen this river, I think I mentioned 8 feet deep, maybe more than that, and so in that case, they would dive down. Anyway, what they do is they dig sand from this river. They fill up, 50, what we would call 50-pound bags of sand, and they would then carry these heavy sandbags up, up these steep stairs up to the road where they would sell this sand for, I think, $1 a bag or something like that. That's what they did for a living. And so I knew that this man could carry the rice that I was carrying. It seemed a little heavy for me. And when I saw him, I said, hey, because I was in a hurry anyway, so I gave him the rice. So I didn't go there the first visit. But, and by the way, this girl here, Junibel, who was one of the original river kids that we met 10 years ago, that's where her parents lived. That I showed you that house from across the river. I guess she had told me that their parents were on the river, because I had heard everybody was gone. And but at this present time, she lives So she lives at somebody's house and basically does whatever they ask her to do there. And I think she does get a place to sleep there, and she probably gets food there and a little bit of money. And that's her job, and that's her son there. And her husband made some very unfortunate, painful decisions. Anyway, we had invited her to the cafeteria for lunch and had a wonderful time just getting reacquainted with her. I remember very well the first time we went there. As I said, she was one of those what we call river kids, and her birthday happened to fall when during the time we were there. And some of our team made sure there was a birthday cake and other things, so they had a little party there. And I remember very well. There she is. She's starting to eat the cake, and she's just weeping because she said, "I've never had a birthday cake in my life." And I remember also very well how she wanted to make sure she saved some cake for her siblings at home. And in this case, I told her, I said, "Junabelle, I have some rice for you." She said, "Pastor Dan, take it to my mother's house." She said, I'll get it there, she told me. Well, later I understood she had no intention of getting that rice for herself, that she, true to form, she wanted to make sure her family got that rice. And so anyway, another week went by, and I had intended to deliver rice twice while I was there. And so I did go on that side. Well, here's the house. So there's that fence that I guess the government put up, and that fence is kind of the front wall of where this family's living. I mean, when you look through that fence, you're looking into the bedroom. And so then you kind of, I guess there's that carpet-like thing hanging down from the left. I guess I kind of pulled that back. I asked the family, I know this family very well. I've known them for 10 years. I know them very well. And I asked them if it would be okay. And so I did. And so I took a picture. This is the master bedroom of their house. Remember, there's nothing, there's no privacy toward the front. You can see there's a cardboard box on a rock there. And that's where Mom and Dad and probably the youngest kids sleep. You can see there's some old plywood and then also a couple pieces of corrugated for the roof there, and that's where they live. And then I look to the left, and there's another bedroom, and the oldest boy that's at home, who I think is the oldest boy, Junabelle is the oldest in that family. Anyway, at least there was some tarp hanging in the front. So I said to the boy, "Oh, so you have privacy in your room, huh?" He said, "Yep." He was really proud. He has privacy in his room. Of course, there's no roof whatsoever. He's looking at the stars when he's sleeping. But this is their conditions. And the last thing that the last thing that Mother said to me as I was kind of rushing away, I had to get ready for the meeting, was, "Don't worry about us, Pastor Dan." She said, this is all, I had an interpreter with me for everything. "Don't worry about us, Pastor Dan. We have income here." So in other words, as the government had moved them maybe to a teeny bit better place, but there was nothing for him to do for income. There was no place to dig sand. So they'd come back here, and he's still digging sand. And it's just really, and please keep in mind, I showed you this house. It was 98 degrees, 98 and humid. And they have no running water, no way to keep water cool. So as somebody said to me, I think Chad said to me last week, when you come back, you're kind of like slowly entering a different universe again. Anyway, so now to the meetings per se. So another individual that was at least half the meetings, that was the conference president. They have at least twice the amount of churches there in that conference as we have here. Anyway, he came, but 11 years it took him to get his undergraduate degree, 11 years, because he was a working student. and then he served as a pastor for 10 years. Then they brought him into the office as Sabbath school, the head of the Sabbath school department there for that conference. And then from there, just within the last 3 years, he was nominated to be the president. And great guy, a great guy. So we got one more short little music clip here. It's VBS. And now to the meetings themselves. So these people are standing, and maybe it was closing prayer. I'm not sure, but this is basically what I was preaching toward most nights. And you'd be up there preaching, and you'd look out, and these people are really listening, and it was quite a thing. This is another picture of the group that came out. And this is the night of the first appeal. You can see some people who are standing in the back and some of the young people standing in the front there on the left. I think there was like 28 people so after they stood, we had them all come forward so we could interact with them and pray with them after the meeting. But so that was the first appeal. And then here's a picture of the second appeal. You can see all the people standing up against the back wall. We had them come forward. On the left, it's a young lady, my interpreter's daughter, singing the appeal song, and there was like 31 people that came forward that night. And there was a third appeal, and there was, 35 people that came forward, but I had told the people, this is only for people who have not come forward yet. But later, Serge told me that the interpreter didn't say that part, because I did see some people like, wait a minute, I think I saw him up here before. But anyway, it's... By the way, that is the young lady who was singing the appeal song, the interpreter's daughter. And she was 12 years old at the time here. This is the first meetings that I ever preached in the Philippines. You can see it's a large crowd there. There's like 2,000 people that came to those particular meetings. But she stood up and sang for them. And so we got to reunite. Actually, she sang a couple different times for me in the meantime. But fine, dedicated young lady with a powerful voice. And loves Jesus. She's just a month or so short of finishing her degree in pharmacy. And just wonderful young lady. Loves Jesus. Loves to serve Jesus with her voice. These different meetings. So that takes us to the baptism. You can see these individuals. These are human beings. You go to their homes, visit with them, pray with them. You find they're not that much different than you and I. They've lived a hard life. They want something beyond this world. And they responded. There was 4 pastors involved in the baptism. I myself have never baptized in the Philippines. It's just my choice for whatever reason. And there in the back, you can just see his head a little bit. On the back on the left, that's the conference president, also baptizing. So this was obviously it's kind of like in the kiddie pool of a swimming pool. It was deep enough, I guess. And just dear, precious souls, dear precious human beings who were baptized that day. And I want to tell you that, so our budget involved, so we had Bible workers that began in January. It's not like they just came to 2 weeks of meetings. We had Bible workers already began in January with these people. And I think we had 6 Bible workers. I had lunch with them one day, all the Bible workers. And I believe there were 6 of them there. After most of them were done, or they were waiting for all of them to get done, they just seated them over here to the side. So there were 73 people baptized that day. And no doubt there will be more. Now the church, where I told you I preached on the second Sabbath, where the young people who did so much for our meetings, that's their home church, there was a guy there who was baptized, and there's two guys like this from 2 separate churches. Anyway, and I don't know the background, if there was an appeal or it just came from his own heart. I think it just came from his heart. He's committed to purchasing a piece of land. So where we had the meetings, there's no church. You have to remember, transportation is, is just not really available that much. So there where those meetings were held, so he bought or committed to buying a piece of land, and there will be a church built there coming out of these meetings, which is a thrill to my heart. And and by the way, I had this privilege once before, many years ago, when I had meetings there. They used to come down in a big dump truck. I don't know how many people. I'll just say 30, 35 people. Every night they come down from the mountain into the meetings, and I'd loved it when those people. Once in a while they didn't come because it'd be raining too hard, and the roads up there were, just not the greatest. And I was always glad when they came, those mountain people, because they really listened. Those young people especially would sit there. I remember them. They'd sit up front. They were really listening with earnestness. Anyway, many of them got baptized, and this church up on the mountain was started as a result. And then a subsequent time when I visited the Philippines, I scheduled myself to preach there on my first Sabbath, and it was just a thrill. It's up in the mountain. There's basically nothing around there. It's beautiful. And here are these precious people holding forth, worshiping Jesus on the Sabbath day. And then Saturday night came, so I took the 10 young people who had been really working. I asked, it wasn't, the oldest sister there, I asked her to gather together. I thought it'd be like 7, but cafeteria, so we got our own room. It was, because it was Saturday night, so they did open after sundown, but not really, just partially for like nurses or whatever that really needed it. So they reserved the room. We had a buffet there, and just had a great time of fellowship and fun, quite frankly, with these young people. And so, like these young people, okay, we just had a major meeting, right, every night. And like, what I was told was that at least once a month they go out to some remote place, they call it a satellite meeting, and they hold some kind of meeting there where there's no church or whatever. And so then the conference driver already had my suitcase and stuff, because Serge had to be at the airport a little sooner. He was supposed to come back here and pick me up, but I knew they were running behind. And so I said, look, I'll just meet you at the airport. And I hopped on the back of the motorcycle, Pastor Owens, and rode to the airport. And you'd have to kind of see let's just say, driving habits of some of those people there to understand what I did. And then just this morning, I was, tagged, I guess, in a picture. And the Dos Hermanos Church, these are the people that were baptized who will be staying in that particular location. Okay, and I don't know if I mentioned this or not. So this new church is basically coming out of them. This picture would not include the ones who are going to be in this new church, as I figure it out. But this church has been in existence for 22 years, and this will be the 6th new church that spawned from this congregation. And so God is good. Amen? I mean, very, very good. All right, so I pray that we all will understand that obviously our demographics is different here, but there are hurting people living in darkness, at least of different kinds all around us. And the Lord wants us to be available to be used by Him. Amen.